Desco says, can IFTTT rings works for large e-commerce sites with 100K products? Maybe. What I mean by maybe is, yes, I would still encourage you to do it. You should have it doesn't have to be an IFTTT syndication ring. As a matter of fact, I don't even really do a lot of syndication anymore, but a branded network that's interlinked and connected back to the main website, the brand, that's important. And so, yeah, you can do that. If you do want to syndicate to a branded network, which you can do still from an e-commerce site, I would certainly not populate it with product feeds because you'll end up getting those Web2 accounts terminated because it'll just blast it over and over and over again. But if you have a blog on your e-commerce site and you're publishing content to help promote your products and product categories and stuff like that, then absolutely, you can syndicate content from your blog to your branded network profiles using IFTTT or any other kind of syndication app or tool, if that makes sense. But yeah, I would encourage you to do that. Whether you syndicate or not, it's up to you, but at least having a branded network, that's important, guys. We're part of the semantic web. You help to strengthen the entity and kind of, build more authority to the entity, whether it's a local entity or an Ecomm entity, it doesn't matter, right? I do recommend doing that, but not just having Web 2.0 networks, properly optimizing them and then interlinking. That's what matters. Like just having profiles out there doesn't really help much. Fully optimizing them and interlinking them to help them become discoverable by Google. I do audits, and I just spent fucking 16 hours over the last 3 days now developing an SOP for how to do technical SEO audits. And I talk about this often, but the semantic web is about associations between entities, and the knowledge graph for a local entity or for a brand. You can consider it a brand. Let's just call it that. It's easier to conceptualize, in my opinion, that way. But a brand, if you've ever seen a diagram of a knowledge graph, what they call a linked data diagram, it's like a geometric shape with all these dots or these circles that are supposed to be, it's a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object, right? Or so a linked data diagram has got these different size circles, which are supposed to be spheres. And the bigger the circle, the more, which by the way, those represent websites. The bigger the sphere, the more authoritative the site is. And that's how it represents the authority of the site. So like, for example, Wikipedia would be fucking huge, right? And then your money site or a local business site would be really tiny little dot. And then there's a bunch of links or lines that interlink these spheres, which are supposed to be links. They're connections, hyperlinks between those assets or properties. And so if you think about, like, analogy I like to think about with the semantic web is and helping to inform the knowledge graph is like a jigsaw puzzle, right? When you get a jigsaw puzzle, it's all these little pieces that when combined and assembled properly, create one cohesive picture. It's like bits of data on the web for an entity, a local entity, all right? There's all these little bits of data that are on the web, but they're scattered all over. And Google tries to find all those pieces of data and assemble them into one cohesive picture, but it has trouble doing it on its own because of the sheer amount of data on the web and how much data is being entered into the web every day, especially because of AI assistance and all that. So the point that I'm trying to make is if you help Google to help your brand's assets or presence, branded presence on other websites, places on the web, if you can help Google to discover them, it can assemble that picture easier, right? It's called informing the knowledge graph. And so that's why I recommend, first of all, fully optimizing any profile. Anytime you're going to create a presence anywhere, fully optimize it and then interlink when possible. So interlink to other branded assets. Why? Because when Googlebot comes and crawls it, it will discover those links and crawl it out and say, oh, okay, this is also part of this entity, this brand. And it starts to assemble all these bits of data into a picture, right? A cohesive picture, one that can be identified as that local entity. So that's kind of an analogy I like to use. And so where there are some key places that it's really important to, or that you can help facilitate this informing of the knowledge graph, right? Which the Google Business website's one of them. It's a Google property. I see it all the time, guys, when I'm doing audits, that so many people still don't use it. And if it's not used properly, it doesn't do a damn thing anyway. So that's probably why, because people have probably tried to use it and didn't use it properly and it didn't produce any results. So they say, it's not worth it. I'm just not going to do it anymore. But if you do it properly, it's very valuable, right? So linking out with contextual links from the main content body of the Google business website out to branded entity assets. It's a Google property. Google's going to come crawl that site. It doesn't matter whether no follow links or not. It's not about pushing link equity, none of that. It's about discoverability, helping Google to assemble that cohesive picture. You're informing the knowledge graph, assisting in that development of the knowledge graph, right? So it's really important, but also the Google business posts, GB posts, guys, you can use the learn more button to link out to various branded and supporting assets. Again, they're Google properties. It's about helping Google to find them and say, oh, okay, this is part of this brand, right? That's how you build authority to the brand and help, kind of put all those scattered pieces of data together for Google. So there's the G site. If you do drive stacks, the G sheet that has all the links, you can, concatenate. I can't say that fucking word, but you can create like Backlink Factory does this very easily, but you can do it in Sheets manually. But you can take all of your URLs and keywords and hyperlink them together and then publish the G Sheet, embed that in like the ID page. An ID page is another critical part of helping to inform the knowledge graph. So there's all these things that you can do. Syndication networks or branded networks are part of that. If they're done properly, they can help to kind of assemble that picture, as I'm saying. Still a very valuable strategy today. It's just changed, right?